Hey guys, it's Mark here from ABM Systems. I'm just going to go through this application that I had built and put up on LinkedIn, as you can see from the background over here. Thanks very much for everyone who's liked and shared and looked into the article and commented on it. It's been great. So just to make people aware, this article that I was showing you guys was all about visualizing financial data using Quandl. And it was titled Lesson 1, so a Lesson 2 probably would have come out by now by the time I released this video. But in this first app, we were going through just some of the data and the tools that you can use on Quandl. The particular data set that we used was something called Share Radar, a mixture of Share and Radar, which is great. It's got a lot of fundamental information in there. And it's also got tickers and share prices and basically a couple of other indicator descriptions that we're going to use to build a financial data app. So in that app, I showed you where to download it. I put it into a certain folder. You don't have to follow that. You can put it into your own. And then also we're using QlikView. So QlikView is the older tool from Qlik Technologies. There's also QlikSense, which is the latest tool that keeps on getting upgrades and just gets better and better. We'll actually jump to that at a later stage, but for right now we use the older tool QlikView. It is at version 12, so if you want to follow along, there's a link up here where you can actually download QlikView, and when you download it, I go through the steps here of what you need to do. But what we're going to do is actually start from scratch, so I'll close this down, and what I've got up here is Quandl, the app. So sorry, Quandl, the website. So if you take a look here, there's a couple of different things that they've got on their page. Basically trade fundamental data and financial data, all about companies that are trading on various share markets overseas and also here. In this case, we're going to focus on the US because that is a data set that has quite a lot of information. And so the way to do it, I've already typed it here at the top, but if you type in Share Radar and scroll down, there's a couple of different bundles that they've got of where you can get information. Now, just to let you guys know, I've actually subscribed to this because there's a lot of good information out of here, but the way that I started off was actually using a test bundle that they've got here. So this Share Radar Core US Equities bundle I thought was really good because for a low price, I'm paying $49 US a month. It gives both the US fundamentals, some extra information, as well as share prices as well. I'm on the personal plan, so that's just for the 5 years. So there's a model there where you can actually extend it to be a little bit more, but it does cost more when you do that. But what I explained in the LinkedIn article was that what you want to do is go here and click on expand, as you can see on the page. That's going to take you to this sample page, and as you scroll down, it just gets longer and longer, and you can see what is shown in this particular data set. And what you want to do then is click on the download button, and I had a CSV, and you can just click on download here, and when it's downloaded, I'll show you where I've saved all of these. So over here there are a couple of different applications, applications, CSVs actually. So there's the daily, the indicators, the SEP, and SF1 and tickers. And there's a couple of other files in there, but we won't use those. But if you follow along from the article, the ones that I downloaded were indicators, SEP, SF1, and tickers. And if you just follow the sample ones, you're actually going to get a lot of information out of that. The next step was to go ahead and download QlikView. So if you go to qlik.com, once that loads up, you'll be able to go and try or buy. If you go to try or buy, there's an option there for you to select Qlik, and you can click on download QlikView. It is going to ask you to fill in some details, so just go ahead and do that for your personal details, if it's just for your own use or for your company, so you can put that information in there. And once that's downloaded and installed, you'll get something like this. Nah, not really. You'll actually have to build this application here. So this is the one that where I showed you, I can click and pick different companies. For example, I can type in Apple, comes up there in a drop down, and everything changes on the screen because now the information relates to analysis for Apple, and AAPL is the ticker for Apple. And there's a couple of other pages that I've got here, so they'll change as we scroll through, etc. So what I'm going to do is show you how to build something like this from scratch. So we'll go ahead and do that. So once you've opened QlikView, If you are on a ClickView personal license, then you're not going to be able to share the file that you've got or download files from the web, but you can do a lot of things with ClickView, and it is a free tool that you can use. But if you buy the paid for version, or if your company has a couple of licenses that you can use, then you'll be able to download example files from the web and create your own files and then share that with others. But if you're just starting from scratch, you get this blank screen here, and what we can do, if we hit Control E, it's going to open up a script area, which I'll just drag onto the page here. And I'll just show you how we connect some of the files. But first of all, this writing that's here, this is just some set variables. So it's why it's got the set wording there, and those are just variables that relate to what system that you're on, just some basic formatting functions. But what we want to do is go up here and add a new tab, and we're going to call this tickers, because that's the first thing that we're going to add in. Now tickers is the area, is the file that's got some information. So the information that it's got is details about the companies, its full name, its ticker name, whether it's delisted or not, categories, QSIPs are another identifier, and it's got some other information there about the sectors. So I've already got it defaulted to embedded labels, so you want to make sure that that's on. It should have comma as the delimiter if you're doing a CSV. But otherwise everything should be okay there. So just make sure you've got the embedded labels on, because if you don't, I'll just show you, if you have it as none, then it's not going to have labels, it'll create its own, as you can see there on screen. Otherwise, if you put embedded labels and then just click finish, that's going to give you that table with all the information there. I'm going to put a new tab in, and this new tab is going to be, so what we'll put here will be the fundamentals data. So we just put in fundamentals, and we will find that file. Now the stuff that you guys will be working with, so fundamentals in here is SF1, so I'll just click open on that, and you can see then it's already got the embedded labels on, and I can see that that's exactly what I want there. I just click on finish. Just to let you guys know, if you do download the fundamentals information and all this other information here without a subscription, what you're going to get is some limited data, as in they're not going to share everything with you. And so you might click on a ticker, or you might look up a company or a stock, and you're going to see that some information is there and others are not. So just to be aware of that. Anyway, the next table that we're going to get in this case is going to be, let's go to indicators. We need those. Indicators are important because the way that this is structured, and here, see, it doesn't have the embedded labels on, so we'll just turn that on. The way that this is structured is that in the fundamentals data, where it's got certain information, it's also got these indicators here that relate to the full name. So where it says revenue, it's revenue. COR, it's going to be cost of revenue. And there's all this information in here that relates to that. So we will actually put that in another tab. So just give me one sec. We will put that here. So we'll put it as indicators. And if we type in, actually if we add indicators here, just keeps opening up on another page. So okay, that's the other part. We can also add in the share price information that I've been able to get. Now this is the one that was really fairly limited when I did grab the share price information, so it's the SEP one. So when you download and look at the share price information that they've got on Quandl as a sample, it's only going to give you a few companies, but I've subscribed, so I've actually got all of the companies there. So embedded labels are on. I just click on finish. Now actually I want that in another tab, so I can just cut and paste that. Actually I have to give it a name, so share prices, and load that into another tab. And so what we've got here, so just another thing to watch here is that when you load the fundamentals data just as is, it's actually got the indicators for different fundamental measures of a company's income statement and balance sheet. It's got it going across the page like a cross table, and you can see that here if I go to the preview. So I click on that little hammer thing on the side there, you'll see here that when it's loaded up, it actually has ACC, OCI, assets, and other fields going across the page, and we actually need those all to be in one. So there's one way that you can handle this in Click, which is using a cross table. So what we're going to do is just delete that, and I'll show you from scratch how to use a cross table, because it is important that we use that information. So if we just load up the SF1 data, and when it comes through, okay, so I've got the embedded labels there. I just click on next and then transformation step, and so finally when that comes through, you've got the information here that gives you an ability to go put some where clauses in, or in this case we want to just put a cross table, and the cross table wizard looks like this. So what it is that we want to do is everything up until I guess the ACCOCI, everything after that is going to be put into its own table. So it's going to be put into one field. So everything in here we're going to call data. Everything that's going across the top there we're going to call that indicator, and that's important because there's an indicator table that gives us the ability to see what information is in those indicators. It gives a full name, and that's what we're going to see what that looks like. So if we put the attribution field as indicator just in lowercase, and then we get to put in the qualifier fields. So there's a few of these, so we get up to 6 qualifier fields. What that means is that in green here, all of these ones are going to be called indicator. They're going to be put into one field, and you're going to be able to reference each of these, and I'll show you how we use that later on. The data field we're just going to call data. We click OK, and it's changed it all. So it's grouped all of those fields that were going horizontally across the page now just into one field. And then we're going to refer to that field by its name, so we can see what the full name is later by the indicators table, and then the data here is just the data that was in the table. So we click on finish, and what we can see here is it's added the cross table information at the top, and it's loaded everything else as is. So you can do that from scratch if you want by just adding the cross table wording there, but it's also nice to use a wizard so you can see what's going on. And one of the other things we're going to do before loading the table is that there is a field called last updated on a few of these tables, and we actually don't want that field in there because when it is replicated, what's going to happen is that ClickView is going to have what's called synthetic keys, because there are a number of joins, and all we want it to join on at the moment are tickers and dates, and at the moment we had it joined on a couple of those, so we need to remove those. Anytime that you comment out anything in ClickView, you have to put the double quotes in. There is another way to comment out by doing this. You can put a forward slash, sorry, not double quotes, double forward slashes, forward slash asterisk, and then asterisk forward slash is also another way to do it. So you can enclose your comments, but just an easy one is to just do double forward slashes. And anytime that it is the last field that you are commenting out, you got to make sure that the field before that you just remove the comma. Okay, so click OK, and we hit Control R to reload. It's going to ask us to save this because this is the first time that we've saved this file, so we're just going to give it a name. I'm going to call it test, and what you can see here is that it's now trying to download it. As I said before, and I've stated numerous times throughout this video, that this is just going to be for you guys just on a sample bit of information. It's not going to be the full set. You have to pay for that, but once it's paid for, you're going to get access to all the companies that ShareRadar has. And at the moment, for those of you who know stock fundamental data and details about the exchanges overseas, this is for the US, Canada, and it's also got ADRs in there, so American Depository Receipts, which is for companies that are listed overseas, like say in China, Tencent for example, and if they have shares that are exchanged on the US stock exchanges, they can go in the form of ADRs. And so we're just loading in some more information. Okay, so it's detected loops. If that does happen, so we can see here what it is that I've looped on. So in this case it's a couple, so indicators and tickers I've looped through there. There is a field called table. Okay, So what we're going to do is go back into the script, and to get to that part that I did there, I just hit Control T, and it should open up on your page. It's opening up on a separate screen for me. I can't get it to open up on the one page here, so I just drag it across so that you guys can see that. But once that's done, I'm going to open up the script. Again, the script is on another page, so it's not slow. ClickView is definitely not doing that. It is just opening up on another screen. So I don't actually need the table field. It's not something that I'm currently using, so I can just get rid of it there because it is just being loaded up twice. So the way that ClickView works is that if you've got a field that's got one name that's the same as another in another area, it's going to join on that. And it would have to be the same name. You have to make sure the names are actually spelled the same. It is case sensitive as well. In ClickSense, the latest versions, there is a cognitive engine that basically looks through all the fields that you've got, and if it sees that this field is very similar because of the way that you've got your ID fields or the way that things are named, it's going to suggest to you that potentially these need to be joined. And so that's what it is that we're doing here. We're doing this because we want to join information, because as opposed to you looking it up separately and looking at stock information one by one, if you're doing it in Excel or via like a massive lookup table, there are limits to what you can process in Excel. So if I was to load all of this information, the file sizes get into the hundreds of megabytes, and it's not fun opening up a couple of 100 MB file, Excel file. So once I've done that, I can hit Control R to reload. Again, it's off screen, so just so you can see that there. But once that information is reloaded, what we're going to see here is an ability for us in our design. And I know I've taken some time to get through the steps here, but I feel it's important that you guys can see everything that's going on in terms of building this file. So this last one, it's quite large. It's 8 million rows. Not large by some other people's standards, but quite large for you know, if you're doing it in Excel, for example. So once all of this information is loaded, that is what they call the back end, the developer work in ClickView. And training for ClickView, they do split it up into developer and designer. And that's important because you need to kind of have both skills if you're going to be doing things here, because you can build some basic designs in Click, but if you want users to really get the impact and like the look and feel and want to go and interact, to go and use your reports, you want to make sure that they're designed well. Okay, so now that the information's been reloaded, you get the sheet properties page come up on the screen. And what we will be able to do is select a few things. And what I wanted to show you guys was just how ClickView works, and it's the same thing with ClickSense. So if we pick a couple of fields here, in this case we'll pick ticker, we'll pick name, I'll just deselect open there, and I also want to pick a couple of other fields like category and also industry. And if we add those to the page, what you'll see here is just how things relate in terms of what's shown on ClickView. So if we go to view, and then just actually selections, layout, finally get there, rearrange sheet objects. And so what's shown on there is just some of the pages that you can, some of the fields that you've got here in terms of Click. If I pick on some of these, so like category, you can see that it changes in terms of domestic, so that's US domestic. I can pick on airlines, and the rest of the fields selected change. And the cool thing about Click is that it actually shows you what's in grey, so stuff that does not relate, as opposed to only showing you what you filtered on. And that's useful because sometimes when you want to look at things, you want to see what's related and what's not. But in our case here, what we're going to do is actually build our first chart. So to do that, once you've selected those fields, and if you want to select more fields, you can either go to select fields here, and it brings up that chart wizard, that page wizard that we saw before, and we could add fields. And in this case, we're going to build a chart. So I want to click on new sheet object. There's a couple of options here. Chart is the first one that we want to do, so we click on that. And by default, it's already selected the chart type being bar chart, and that is the one that we want to complete here for this first lesson. There are some other charts like line charts, combo charts, where you could put lines and bars at the same time, radar charts, etc. And you can put some tables as well, either a pivot or what people call a matrix table, or just a straight table, which is just a table with fields and there's no pivoting of the information. So in this case, we're going to stick with the bar chart, and if we click on next, when that part comes up, what we want to do is pick the date field that we want to show here, and this time it is date key. There's a couple of dates there, but we can go back to the script and see what relates to this fundamental data. The two separate date types is because one relates to dates for the share prices and one relates to dates for the fundamental data, and we're okay to keep those separate. We're okay to keep those separately for now. But we will show you in a coming up lesson just what it is that we're going to do with dates to normalize those. So we pick on date and we click on add, and then we go to the next section here. So we've got this expressions field that's come up just on another page, and this first expression we're going to put in average and then data, because that's the field that we want to use on the fundamentals information. But if we don't put in this set analysis, what's actually going to happen here is that you're going to miss out on being able to pick between the different indicators. And so what we're going to do is actually no, I'll leave it as is, and I'll show you at the end of the lesson what it is that if we just put average data. If we click on next, we go to this next page here. We'll leave this the dimensions just as they are. We can pick a style here. We're just going to leave it as is as well. Next thing that's up there is a couple of presentation layer details. We can leave those too, and then we're going to get to the axes, and this section here is important because this is where we actually want to add some visual extras to the bar graph. So if we add width, and then if we click on show grid as well, that's going to be important. And the last thing is, because we're dealing with time data, we wanted to fill in any gaps where we might not have information being shown there. So we're going to click on continuous, and then we click on next. There are the chart colors that are here. These are the default colors. If you want to change any of those, you can click on the color, and then you can click on the base color there again, and then change colors here. I've got some custom colors that I've saved myself, so I can click on one of those, for example, and click OK. Then we'll go to next again. Numbers important as well, because if you put a continuous axis in, what you want to make sure is if it's a date, you want to change that default to date. You can change the format pattern here if you want, otherwise just leave it to the default. Next thing is font. We'll just leave that as well. Then the layout, and then also caption. And those other areas are important. We're not going to touch on those right now, but the reason they're important is because that's going to show you some information about how you can redesign what's shown on ClickView, so it's not just the default and you can play around with it. And so as we can see here, the information going across the page, there are a couple of airlines in this case that we're looking at, domestic US airlines, and because we're looking at quite a few, it is sharing some information, so the bar charts do look funny there. But if we pick one of those, so for example Delta Airlines, which is a more well-known company, we can see here that the average data, it's not, we don't know what that is, it's not telling us anything there. So what we want to do is right click on that. First of all, we want to give that a name. So if we give it a name, in this case, actually what we want to do is select the indicator. And so actually what I'll do, I'll click on cancel on there, and I'll show you that if you bring in the indicator data, because we've related the information all across, when we were loading the information, when we load indicator, we're going to be given the ability to change what's on the chart. And so once that's on screen here, if I click on assets, that's going to change what's on the chart here. If I click on CapEx, which is the capital expenditure of this company, it's also going to change, and so we can see some negative spending over there. Click on debt, it's the same thing, it's going to change, and we can see that the debt for Delta Airlines has been going down. So one of the cool things in Click is that we can change what's in the expression label. We can make that dynamic, and I'm going to put that in as equals indicator, and if I click on that there, you can see that the name changes, as you can see there. Now indicator is the shortened name for it. If we want to see what the long name for it is, I can click Control E, or I can click on the edit script area, and what that's going to bring up is the script that we were looking at before. And anytime that you need to refer back to the script, just either hit Control E or click on the edit script button. we're interested in this indicators area, and it's this field here, title, and I can tell that because if I click on, well, I know the information, but if I click on that hammer there on the side, it takes me back to the area where I was looking at, and title is the long name information, whereas indicator is the abbreviated form. So title's the one that I want to bring in. I'll just click on cancel here, right click again, go to properties, and we're going to put this as title. And so you can see here the full title, which is total debt. And as I click on all of the different indicators here, I can actually bring in, you can see the name change first of all, but I can bring in title as the field that we want to show. So hopefully that comes through. Okay, battery's running low, so I better get out of here. So click on OK. You can see the title is a field that we can now bring in, and so you've got the fuller names there. So asset turnover, for example, I click on that, I can see asset turnover. Okay, so it's deselected the airline, so I can just reselect that because there might not have been asset turnover for Delta, but for other airlines, for example, Baltia Airlines, okay, so it does have that field there, but there's nothing to show. You can click on someone else, American Airlines Group, so they do have asset turnover there, and we can see how that's trended over time. So in this lesson, we've just concluded with being able to load some data from Quandl and put that into ClickView and be able to play around with that. What we're going to do in the next one is put in some more information, lay things out a little bit better, and play around with the design of Click, and we're going to show you all of that in lesson 2. Thanks very much.